guys. Um, First of all, this is hard. Saying goodbye to this class is really hard. I don't think I could have gotten a better introduction to honors than I've gotten. When picking a medium for this final project, I wanted to make sure that whatever I did was the most real, the most sentimental, the most authentic that I could make it. So I chose a video because I wanted you guys to hear my thank yous and goodbyes instead of reading them. I think that this is as close as, I know that this is as close as we're going to get to thank yous and goodbyes because we were robbed of ones in person. And I do, for the record, have notes because you guys know that I ramble and go off on tangents, and I know that if I were to try to do this just a straight shot, it would not turn out well. So before we talk about the last 6 weeks, I want to take us back to our first day in class and just back to when we were able to meet in person in general. I entered honors unprepared and sweaty and terrified and intimidated, and there was even a point where I thought about leaving honors because I was so scared that I wasn't going to be able to keep up with you guys and how intelligent you were. And I'm so glad that I stayed. I'm so grateful because even though you guys still intimidate me with how incredibly talented and smart you are, I'm so lucky that I got to grow with you guys and got to grow so close to you guys. I can genuinely say that this is the only class that I'm able to walk away from saying that I was genuinely myself the entire time and that you guys accepted me with open arms, despite the fact that I overshare way too much and that I talk way too much. So, just a huge thank you to all of you guys for everything. At the beginning of this class, we were asked what wilderness was or meant to us, and I think most of us put something along the lines of actual physical wilderness with bears and trees. But as we read the stories by David Quammen and the Little Red Riding Hood story, wilderness represents so many different things. Wilderness is adolescence, wilderness is young adulthood, wilderness is all stages of life, wilderness is middle age, wilderness is old age. Wilderness is creating new relationships, wilderness is getting new jobs and trying to adapt to those, wilderness is moving throughout your life. We are never going to be able to escape wilderness, simply because once we get out of one, we are thrown right into another. We never stop learning and changing as people. And I think by watching the videos with Chris McCandless and Timothy Treadwell, we learn that our purpose within these multiple wildernesses are not to try to conquer them. It's not about power, but it is to learn and grow and adjust within them. Right now, we are all in the wilderness of this pandemic. None of us have ever lived through something like this before with the technology that we have. We've never had to self-isolate like this before, and it's really hard. However, part of me does think that this class is almost better while learning it alone. I mean, especially the way that it was adapted to fit isolation. I mean, I think that at least the pieces that I produced would not have been as genuine or as authentic as they were when I really get to sit and self-reflect. We had to look through Thoreau's point of view and ask ourselves really hard questions. Are we living deliberately? Where are our energy leaks, our time leaks, our money leaks? Are we a slave to our own routine? Are we cogs in the machine? What are we dissatisfied with? And how do we change it? Did simplifying our lives make us better? And personally, after all of the assignments that we did, I came to two conclusions, which I'll explain in more detail. But the first one was that I isolate myself way more than I have to, both in general and during this government-mandated isolation. I mean, I sit in my room and I stick to myself. I mean, a lot of the activities that I enjoy doing, like reading or doing artwork, are very one-person activities. But even when I'm doing those things, I can be sitting out in the living room with my family. And that's something that I've really adjusted, because there's no reason that I need to sit and wallow in self-pity in my room alone when I can sit and wallow in self-pity out with my parents. And then the second thing that I learned was that my biggest time suck, which I explained in the papers that I turned in, was thinking about my mental illnesses. I am very good at identifying them and telling people about them and not being necessarily ashamed of them, but I'm not very good at doing a goddamn thing about them. This is one of my hardest wilderness. This is my hardest wilderness to face, that I am submerged in. And sometimes it absolutely eats me alive. But I realize that in this wilderness, I am standing still, stuck, and alone. And what good is that? It absolutely does me no good. So the most important assignment, and the one that I probably learned the most from, was the assignment where we had to create a course in helping fix a weakness. Like you guys know, the weakness that I chose was my body dysmorphia, my self-image. And within that course, I gave myself an assignment to write a poem that was nice towards myself, which was really, really hard for me because I'm so used to writing hate speech toward myself. It's so much easier to pick out the things that are wrong with me and to turn that into poetry instead of the good things about me. So I thought I would share it with you, just to be even more personal and oversharey more than I normally am. Please take this with a grain of salt, just because it's definitely not the best poem that I've ever written. It's far from it. But it is important to me. So it's called Little Girl, Young Woman. Little girl, with ratted hair she refused to brush, toy sword always tightly clutched, soil hidden under her fingernails, yanked out her symmetrical pigtails. Roses kissed her cheeks and sweat touched her brow. She could do nothing but live in the now, cared not about bugs or boys or bruises. She played how she wanted, and if not, she refuses. Never apologized for what she was feeling, for her dreams stretched much farther than the stains in the ceiling. Always ended the day soaked in laughter, swift-footed, fearless, but growing up faster young woman. Never apologized for taking up space. An aquiline nose does not an ugly girl make. Displays plump lips, straight teeth, and light eyes, but most of her beauty glows from the inside. She is angry and creative and motivated, empathetic, passionate, and opinionated. She is weighed down with insecurity, shattered her mirrors, feeling unworthy. She has dangerous thoughts that make her go numb, but despite the latter, she will not succumb. Sick of entering rooms with apologies, not introductions, wishes the world came with instructions. She needs to remember who she was, what she came from, march to the beat of from her own drum. Find the little girl who has been silenced inside her and come out blazing, surrounded by fire. So again, this was super uncomfortable for me to write. But I know that this discomfort is good. It is pushing me forward in my hardest wilderness. So I pass this question to you guys as my goodbye. What wilderness are you standing still in? It doesn't have to be a weakness. It could be anything. It could be a newfound passion that you have. What can you do to push yourself forward, to learn, to adapt, or to accept? Remember to live deliberately like Thoreau, and spend all of your free time you have on things that are important to you. And I can't wait to continue to grow alongside you, even after this class is over.